Sure, Mr. Terrific is smart, obviously, but is he that smart? Nah, there are at least 10 DC characters who could outthink him. In the DC universe, there's a planet across the galaxy from Earth called New Genesis. New Genesis is similar to the MCU's Valhalla in that everyone there is a gorgeous, accomplished, godlike being with incredible quality of life. New Genesis has also been locked in an eons-long power struggle with their planetary neighbor and godly counterpart, Apocalypse, which is the hellish opposite of New Genesis's paradise. Metron is a new god, one of New Genesis's most distinguished and powerful inhabitants.
We exist between two ticks of the clock. In my travels through the myriad paths of infinity, I have seen the first and the last.
Metron actually doesn't spend very much of his time on New Genesis though, because he's usually riding his awesome Mobius chair. He's considered the smartest man on a planet full of beings that are so genetically advanced they can call themselves gods without anyone rolling an eye. He spends all of his time traveling the universe, attempting to gather all available knowledge in existence. So yeah, he definitely has a brain that can stand up to pretty much anyone's scrutiny. And then there's Darkseid, the literal dark side to New Genesis and many of its new gods. Darkseid is obsessed with power, both acquiring it and depriving others of it. As such, he tends to focus much of his energy in the procurement of knowledge and the enhancement of his mind and body. Despite Darkseid's weird comic book history, he's a staple villain both for Superman and for all DC Universe superheroes. He's spent a lot of his time and resources building up military forces to fight the new gods of New Genesis, but his obsession with infinite conquest has led him to Earth many times. Darkseid's physical power is vast. Fans have often asked the question, who would win in a fight between Darkseid and Thanos? But his tactical and ruthless mind is his most valuable asset. In the Justice League animated series, the new gods of New Genesis saw to it that Earth remained off limits to Darkseid, but he still sought sneaky and creative ways to destroy Superman, one of the only beings in the universe capable of physically challenging him.
Time and again I've beaten you, humbled you. What makes you think today's outcome will be any different?
At one point in the Superman animated series, Darkseid brainwashes Superman into believing that he's his adopted father. He's a psycho of cosmic proportions and has the most conniving mind in the universe. The DC Comics universe is a complicated place, and people from different realities and time periods interact with each other all the time. Querl Dox, aka Brainiac 5, is the fifth iteration of Brainiac, a cybernetic artificial intelligence who's known as one of Superman's strongest villains in contemporary times. Because of the original Brainiac's obsession with constant self-optimization, Brainiac's descendants have become mostly organic, super smart living beings by the time Earth hits the 31st century. Querl Dox becomes Brainiac 5 and joins a legion of superheroes partially to set things right.
Think of me as the black sheep of my family, dedicated to doing good to make up for my ancestors' legacy of evil.
Querl Dox is considered a 12th level intellect, meaning by the highest standard of intelligence in the DC universe, he ranks among the most brilliant beings alive. This doesn't account for every measure of intelligence, but when it comes to problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability, processing speed, and other abilities usually considered as markers of high intelligence, he's unparalleled. For context, the average level of intellect on Earth is a 6th level, and the only other Brainiac to reach a level 12th level intellect was the OG. J'onn J'onzz is, before anything else, a refugee of a nearly extinct culture. He first came to Earth as a devastated survivor, saved from the brink of oblivion by random chance. Known as the Martian Manhunter while fighting crime on Earth, J'onn has many powers thanks to his Martian physiology. He's super strong, capable of flying, and has enhanced senses. More interestingly, J'onn is capable of using a wide range of telepathic powers, including the ability to read minds, communicate mind to mind, and disorient enemies.
I've read his mind. He's telling the truth.
He also has laser vision and can shapeshift into essentially anything he can fathom. Needless to say, DC's Martian Manhunter has a rich history and is a character with an oft-overlooked level of power. Martians develop their cognitive functions alongside their telepathic abilities, and as a result, they were also known to be a highly erudite, peaceful race. J'onn has a brilliant mind for technology, and even served as the Justice League's eye in the sky before Mr. Terrific in Justice League Unlimited. Not only can J'onn go toe-to-toe with Superman in physical combat, but he could also beat Batman in nearly every way to measure cerebral aptitude. It is easy to forget J'onn's superiority though, because he has limited knowledge of Earth and its customs. Now that it's time to think about humans who could measure up to or potentially overcome Mr. Terrific in a comparison of intelligence, the first obvious choice is Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. Known to the world as a genius detective and strategist, Batman is the kind of hero who keeps his cards very close to his chest, especially when it comes to divesting himself from his billionaire alter ego. Bruce is very gifted in technology, engineering, scientific analysis, and code breaking, and could easily be described as a jack of all trades.
You took my sonar concept and applied it to every phone in the city. With half the city feeding you sonar, you can image all of Gotham.
Most importantly though, Bruce is like Doctor Strange, but without any help from magical resources. He's constantly computing possible outcomes in any scenario, and often the people working with him don't know his plan until it's already been executed. Batman has a particular reputation for having fail-safes in place to take down pretty much any of the superpowered beings on Earth, including his fellow superheroes. This even includes Superman, for whom Batman keeps a stash of kryptonite just in case Kal-El decides to turn on the people of Earth. Bruce can easily be considered the greatest mind on Earth because he uses everything he has to maintain or regain the upper hand. Despite his lack of metahuman abilities, he, much like the Boy Scouts, is always prepared. This placement in the rankings might make a lot of DC Comics fans raise their hackles, but there is an important point to be made here about both Diana's education and natural skills, as well as the value of emotional intelligence. Diana, as a treasured daughter of Themiscyra, is expertly trained in combat tactics and strategy. She has a traditional ancient Greek education, thoroughly studied in classics, literature, philosophy, diplomacy, politics, and many other staple subjects. Diana is also omnilingual, which means that she can speak, read, and write in every language on Earth, ancient and modern alike. Diana's diplomatic skills are actually a big part of the reason that Themiscyra has managed to maintain mostly peaceful relations with the human world.
That's the truth.
Many have asked if Wonder Woman is powerful enough to beat Superman in a physical contest, but the truth is that it has very rarely come to that in the comics, and is not likely to happen more frequently. Part of what makes her such a strong figure is her ability to cut to the heart of a matter thanks to her inherent sense of honesty and compassion. This inherent emotional intelligence that allows her to understand people and see the best in them despite their failings. There are a million possible situations that Diana could talk herself out of that Mr. Terrific would have to end with outside intervention, thanks to his ability to empathize and build connections with others. Another wildcard choice, Zatanna, represents an important point to consider in the great superhero intelligence debate. Where do magic users fit in? Some magic users in the DC Comics universe, like Teen Titans Raven, are depicted as having a lot of raw, natural power, and a difficult time wielding it despite their efforts in studying the arcane arts. However, most DC Comics magic users are depicted as diligent students and masters who spend hours of time researching, practicing, and experimenting with various forms of magic, which is distinct from science. The use of magic requires precision, concentration, extensive study, and strong imagination. Dr. Fate, John Constantine, and Zatanna are a few of the most proficient and recognizable magic users in the DC Comics universe. Most of Dr. Fate's power and knowledge comes from his symbiotic connection with the helmet of Nabu. And while John Constantine is an impressive magic user, the core of his talent really resides more in the strength of his magical intuition and his ability to manipulate people. Zatanna seems like the best choice of magic users for this list, as she is both naturally gifted in wielding magic and particularly clever and elegant in her application of it.
Okay, you win. Srup Ripa!
Zatanna performs her magic by speaking commands backward, either as one word or a full sentence, and she is Batman's primary contact whenever he encounters mysterious matters that deal with the arcane. His trust in her alone should be enough proof that she could outthink Mr. Terrific if she had to.
Only a 12th level intellect has the slightest hope of surviving what you are about to experience.
Then I'm overqualified.
Lex Luthor would most likely be infuriated to find himself so low on a list of intelligent beings, but it's exactly that fury that keeps him from rising higher in the ranks. Lex is, according to Mr. Terrific, the second smartest natural-born Earthling in existence, but that ranking doesn't consider things like interpersonal or intrapersonal intelligence, and Lex is severely lacking in both. Yes, Lex is an accomplished scientist, inventor, and mathematician. He's also a billionaire who runs his company and manages his portfolio with cunning unfailing ruthlessness. Still though, all of this means next to nothing simply because of the existence of Superman. It's Lex's obsession with Superman that holds him back from fulfilling his true potential as a genius. He allows his feelings of envy and hatred to cloud the pragmatic parts of his mind that have guided him towards so much success. His inability to cope with difficult feelings and inevitable disappointments is an enormous handicap.
It's just one more steaming flop.
That said, Lex is still incredibly smart. He is uncompromising, creative, and subtle in his self-interested pursuits, most of the time understanding that timing and precision are essential for success. Aside from Darkseid, Lex is easily the most devious figure on this list, and even then that's really only because Darkseid is several millennia older. Unfortunately for Ray Palmer and his alter ego, the Atom, the MCU's extensive use of Ant-Man and Hank Pym has made it difficult for the DC Cinematic Universe to introduce the character in theaters. Brandon Routh portrayed Palmer in the CW's Arrowverse as a regular on DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but otherwise the character has remained relatively low profile.
This feels good, being back in the field.
Ray Palmer is a facsimile of Hank Pym though, which means that he's a brilliant scientist who found a way to manipulate the very building blocks of physical matter. Like Hank Pym, Ray Palmer is a scientific visionary, and only one of a handful that are prominent in the DC Comics universe. Palmer's ability to change his size is a considerable boon when it comes to rescues, recoveries, and general combat missions. His real superpower though is a result of his incredible intelligence. Ray has a far more scientifically focused purview than Mr. Terrific, whose area of expertise lies more in the realm of technology and engineering. While this doesn't necessarily make him smarter, the product of his work is ultimately far more groundbreaking. More than any of Batman's other cohorts, Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, feels very much like Bruce's cerebral successor.
Where will we get in touch with you, Batgirl, in case we find some more clues?
Where can I get in touch with you, Batman?
Barbara, the only daughter of Gotham Commissioner Jim Gordon, began her hero career as Batgirl, fighting alongside Dick Grayson's Robin and Bruce Wayne's Batman for years under cover of night. In the DC comic Batman the Killing Joke, Barbara Gordon gets shot in the spine by the Joker, who didn't know about her alter ego and targeted her because of her father. Barbara survived the shot, but was paralyzed from the waist down and forced to retire. The history of the recently shelved Batgirl movie is dark, but luckily Barbara Gordon has evolved beyond the Batgirl persona. After her paralysis, Barbara spent many years supporting her fellow Birds of Prey and other heroes from a computer chair, adopting the hacker code name Oracle and facing down many cyber threats herself. Barbara is a brilliant thinker, with quick processing skills and an aptitude for clue solving and code breaking only surpassed by that of Batman himself, and maybe Tim Drake, who actually discovered Batman's secret identity as a teenager. Most importantly, Barbara is a genius hacker who understands the mind of a criminal thanks to her father and Bruce's tutelage. Now that Barbara has regained full use of her legs in the DC Comics universe, she is proving a very formidable figure thanks to her combination of physical prowess and shrewd brainpower.